At Manhattan University, a graduate degree is not out of reach. You'll gain real-world skills, credentials employers value, and connections to New York City's top companies. Choose from their new Master of Science degrees in Healthcare Informatics, Digital Marketing and Analytics, Business Analytics, or Financial Analytics, all built around hands-on learning and industry partnerships. Graduate ready to lead, not just work. Take the next step at manhattan.edu/graduate. Manhattan University. Lead the future.
Excuse me! Taxi!
Come on, what are you doing? This is the 77 WABC minicast.
I like MAGA. I am MAGA. I was there for the first Trump rally, the very first one. I said, this is it. Everything's different now. He's going to win. My programs tend to be opinion-driven news and commentary programs with a focus on politics and culture that intends to inform, enlighten, possibly entertain, and do so hopefully in the most compelling and interesting way possible. And that does not mean that I am, no matter what happens, it's good. President Trump, if he's got one weakness, everybody's got weaknesses. He's got more than one. I love the guy. I think he's amazing. I love the policy. I love the style. I love the history. Only this man. This is a gift. But sometimes when it comes to personnel, he's got a blind eye. All right? There were so many bad appointments in the first one. Granted, he was new to politics, and he said so. I appointed some real losers. People like Mattis, people like John Kelly, people, all across the Mike Pence. He didn't know. Now he knows. Now, like a lot of people, they can be distracted by loyalty and sometimes distracted and confused by even President Trump flattery. This Kristi Noem was bad news. Bad news from the very get-go. Look, when you announce to the world, when you brag that you shot your own dog, that's a problem, right? You can't, the dog was 18 months old. Bring him to the pound. You don't go out of your way to shoot him in the head. And I said last December, I took a lot of heat for this too. So the interesting thing, I come out and I say, I know what's going on. And I'm not going to, if I think my opinion can be helpful, and you know who actually tunes in from time to time, and when he asks me for my advice, which isn't often, but you never know when he's going to say, Greg, what do you think of that? Greg, what do you think? What's your idea? I'm going to have something to say. And I often will share it with the audience first. President Trump, for all of his gifts, is not infallible. I've done it basically 3 times where I thought, you know what? He needs to hear this. Number one, in the summer of 2024, it was right after he got shot. He goes in front of that Republican National Convention, and the speech, in my opinion, was a bust because it was like all the speeches that he gave at the rallies, and it sounded very much like another Trump rally. And I thought it was a very unique opportunity to explain who he is to people who have only heard lies about him. And if you watch the fake news, all you get is lies and twisting his words out of context, all kinds of crazy stuff. So I came out and I said, listen, Mr. Trump, I love the, Mr. President, I love the rallies. I was at the very first rally. I love it. But we're talking about people who may not love you. What about them? Where are they? I don't want President Trump to change, but I want people to see a side of him that I know exists that will come out if he changes his audience. Doesn't mean he's being phony, doesn't mean he's being fake, but let's face it, if you meet a room full of people who are skeptical of you, you're just going to behave slightly differently than if you walked into a room full of love, right? A room full of love and everybody's on their feet, right? You're going to maybe try to convince them, or you're going to try to, I don't know, but I knew he would be different in small gatherings. And at that point, and I'm not the only one, I'm pretty sure the other guy was Barron Trump. What happened was he started doing podcasts, video podcasts, where you see him on TV, right? You see him and you see what he's like with a small number. Like a podcast is generally hosted by 1, maybe 2 people. And President Trump is different in one-on-one settings. And you see, and you can have a longer conversation, and you can see the nuance. You can see the sensitivity, the empathy, all these great things that I know President Trump has. So I come out and say that, and I got to tell you, it was really interesting. I'll do whatever I have to do if it's right, and I think it's going to help in a worthy cause. I got so much grief online. It's okay. Generally speaking, I like grief online when it comes from the left, but when it's coming from my own team, that tends to anger me, actually. I'm like, this is the truth. I'm saying it because I want to help President Trump, and I'm glad I did because there was a pivot. Can I claim sole credit? Probably not, but sometimes I do. Sometimes I think, you know what, if only, I exaggerate a little bit in my head. Everybody does. Oh, the influence that I have, blah, 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 blah. But I did not hurt, and I think I helped. The other thing was Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth. We know about that. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Pete Hegseth has done very well. I did what I did with the information I had at the time. I will tell you this. Some of his tough talk is starting to turn me off and is actually counter to military professionalism. Pete wasn't in the military long enough to understand or to learn true military culture. I believe that, actually. That the antics that he sometimes carries on with the tattoos, with the push-ups, with the rest of it. How do I put this? I don't know. You have professional full-time firefighters, and then sometimes you have the volunteer firefighters. And sometimes there's a difference culturally, and sometimes there's a difference in terms of professionalism. Sometimes, not all the time, but when he goes around we got Iran on the ground and we're kicking them and they're dead, and you don't. From a Sun Tzu warrior perspective, who was Sun Tzu? He wrote The Art of War, which was required reading basically for every Marine Corps officer. You learn that, taunting the enemy is unwise. You beat the enemy. You overwhelm the enemy. You do a lot of things but then you give them a reason. You give them a reason to never stop fighting. You anger them. You enrage them. And an enemy that you might be subduing then suddenly finds motivation to keep fighting and to do despicable things potentially on the battlefield. Emotion is best kept out of it, and he's been injecting emotion into some of this stuff, which I don't approve of. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not good. It's not what military culture has actually taught for a very, very, very long time. And I'm not talking about woke, all right? My idea, my version here is not woke or anything like that. But I had to say it, and I did. Back in, when the hell was that? December, when he got appointed. Even when he got appointed, I said, you know what? I can live with this because he is a guy who said CQ Brown needs to be fired. And very few people were saying that or willing to do that. Then I found out he paid off, you know what I found out. And it's been a bit of a mixed bag. I think his highest moment was the speech in Quantico, Virginia, where he talked about the military being too risk-averse. Back to Kristi Noem. I said in December that she needs to spend more time in the office, less time screwing around, less time on the horse, less time at the beauty parlor, less time in the makeup chair, less time in just doing way too much of that stuff. All the perks, the power. Look at me, aren't I hot, holding this weapon? No, you look foolish, actually. Being an administrator of the Homeland Security Department is a huge managerial challenge. It's so big and vast. You don't have time, although she did, to take beauty shots, glamour shots. You ever go to the mall for glamour shots? Remember those things? I didn't, but I've seen these. She went to the mountains for a glamour shot. Here is a commercial she made. She's a full-time security secretary, Homeland Security Secretary. Yet she makes this puff piece like she's with the, South Dakota Tourism Bureau. You ready with that thing? I mean, I already know what Mount Rushmore looks like. I don't need Kristi Noem to show me. Go ahead. She's on a horse.
Why do I love these wide open spaces? They remind me of why our forefathers came here. Not just for its beauty, but for the freedom only America provides. I'm Kristi Noem. From the cowboys who tamed the West to the titans who
Stop, if you don't mind. I'm Kristi Noem. She's on a horse with makeup and a cowboy hat. She looks hot. The piece opens up, quite frankly, with the shot of her ass. Right? I mean, she's hot and she knows it, which is actually kind of not hot. Right? I'm Kristi Noem. Is she telling you anything useful? Right? We kind of know this about America, and she goes on with this crap. This is all about her being president someday or being a senator or whatever the hell she wants in her ambition. And they spent $250 million on these dopey commercials starring her. Okay, keep going.
To the dreamers who chase the impossible. America has always rewarded vision and grit. Our greatness calls people to us for a chance to prosper, to live how they choose, to become part of something special. Anyone who searches for freedom can...
I mean, and she's showing, rocket ships taking off and men walking on the moon and the light bulb being turned on by Edison. I'm like, this has nothing to do with Homeland Security. This has nothing to do. What are you doing? What are you spending money on this garbage?
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.